Hey everyone, it's Alan over at Cobblers Plus, and today we've got another daily video for you. So come join us and check it out. So first things first, I want to mention, sorry I can't talk, it's the end of the day. Sorry that I haven't been posting my daily videos. I've been having some technical difficulties with being able to get these videos all compressed and going. Just a lot of issues. Hopefully I can get a new computer soon, but who knows when that might be, unfortunately. But at the time being, anyways, I'm going to do whatever I can to keep posting them for you. Hopefully you've been enjoying them, and just bear with me, and I'll try to get around to as much videos as I possibly can, because there's a lot in this industry that needs to be covered. Some people want it to be covered. Some people don't care about it, but I'm here either way, basically. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about Saphir Oiled Leather Cream, also known as Greasy Leather Cream. It was nicknamed for that because it goes on leather that feels kind of greasy. I don't know the whole backstory to that exactly, but we're going to be talking about mainly the product here. I've got a few boots here that I'm featuring that are that type of leather, in other words. For those of you who are not familiar with it, oiled leather, or CXL chrome tanned leather, or Chromexcel leather, sorry, it's a different type of leather. It's never one of those that you can really shine up with heavy coats of waxes. You can't get it really shining like crazy. It's got kind of like a rugged, rustic look. I've got a pair of Ariats here, actually, and Ariats is one of the brands that's been coming out with a lot of them. Some people call it push-up leather as well, because when you stick your hand inside and you push up, you can kind of see it get a little bit lighter in that spot where you're pushing up with your finger there. So you're like right here, gets a little bit lighter there. And what happens is the leather on these is basically impregnated and infused with a number of different oils, mainly things like mink oil, neatsfoot, or lanolin. There are a few companies that do it differently, but typically those are the three major types of oils that most companies use. Obviously, there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, you can't have a oil tanned leather with this kind of oil." Basically, it still turns out the same way. Okay, I've seen it a few times, basically, where one company says, "Oh, it only has to be mink oil, or only has to be lanolin, or neatsfoot oil," and so on. It's whole thing. Or other boots, like you can tell here, that you can't actually really tell, but these are all oiled leathers as well. We've got a pair of Thorogoods here that are going to be worked on. As you can tell, these are in rough shape. They're very dirty with a lot of dust and everything, so it's kind of hard to tell, but sometimes you can tell from the side. You can also tell from the feel. It feels a little bit oily, in other words. Other ways you can't tell just because it's got layers upon layers of who knows what on there as well, and it becomes dark. And I've got a pair back there that I've been washing and washing and washing. But again, it all comes down to that feel. Just feel up top in these areas if you're not sure at this point. And then there's some pairs that are in better shape, like this one that we're finishing out here. But in general, oiled leather, you can't really use every product out there, unfortunately. Try using, like, say, pomadier creams from Saphir. You can't use that because, one, there is solvents in here. The solvents, they kind of counter the oils in there, and it gets messy, in other words. The other thing is that there are waxes in there too. Heavy coats of waxes, they don't absorb or bind to the leather very well, because that little thin layer of oils is going to resist that. It's going to act as a shield, basically. So you're not going to be able to wax them up, and trust me, you're going to put on the wax on there and you don't even realize it, but after a couple of wears, right where this bendable area is, those waxes crack very quickly, and it just looks terrible, especially if you're trying to have a nicely maintained looking pair of boots, whether it's for construction work or just casual wear or anything like that. As you can tell, we got another pair of Ariats. They get beaten up sometimes too right here. So obviously, it's not for everyone. They don't really care, but still, I don't recommend putting on those waxes because they really counter those natural oils that are infused into leather, which act as, kind of your repellent against water, salt, and other damaging, products and solutions that may be out there that you maybe walk outside, or if you're on a construction site, or you're out on the farm, or just out at a bar, or wherever you may be. those oils really help actually protect those CXL leathers, those oiled leathers, and all those other things like that. So just keep in mind, avoid products that may have waxes in there. But we're going to cover a different version here in just a minute. Now that we had covered what oiled leather is, what CXL leather is, it's basically all the same family. It's just different names, push-up leather, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's the same stuff. It feels oily, it looks kind of rugged, rustic, you know. That's what it is there. There are a number of boot makers, shoe makers out there that use it. Allen Edmonds, Alden, Thorogood, Redwing, Ariat, Freebird, all those brands out there, at least somebody has dipped their toe, in other words, in making at least one or two styles in that type of leather, basically. So what do you use to condition it? Now, there are a number of products out there that can be used on it. There are things like Big Four, for example, Venetian cream, and all of those. I'm a little skeptical on some of them just because those companies are very, very, you know, secretive about what key ingredients are in their product. Now, obviously, we don't want to know all the ingredients, and they won't disclose that in any brand or company because they want copycats. But I want to know at least the key ingredients in all of them, and that's why I love Saphir in particular. Saphir Beauty Cuir, Saphir Medaille, Medaille, whatever you want to call it. But in other words, these products are ideal. There's a reason why they are a gold medal standard type of product. In other words, Venetian cream is great, a Big Four is great as well, but if you want to step up your game and actually use a product that is intended for what it's supposed to use, Saphir's your way to go. And Saphir has a product that is designed specifically for this type of leather. In other words, they have both in their Beauty Cure version and their Medaille version as well. So with the Beauty Cure version, we'll start out first, obviously, because it's their blue label line. It's not worse or anything like that. It's still a much more superior product than a lot of the other ones out there on the market. But it's, to me, personally, I don't like it because it's in a bottle. I hate squeeze bottles because I like just dipping my finger into whatever, and I just hate the squeeze bottles. It's annoying. But anyways, still a great product. Squirt it in a little jar if you want to. That's what I have to do a lot of times. So to start out, obviously it's in a squeeze bottle. The size of this is 125 mils. Ooh, I really can't talk today. It uses neatsfoot oil and jojoba oil. I call it jojoba oil all the time, but it's Jojoba. That's how I keep having to see it. But that's the base on it, kind of, as far as the key ingredients that help condition and nourish everything. This product does come in 4 colors. We tend to stock just the neutral, just because a lot of times when you start introducing pigment, you either go all in or don't bother with it type of thing, at least in my opinion. And it seems like all of our suppliers and everywhere that we can get our hands on this, same kind of story. I mean, if I really want to, I could probably get more colors. I probably will at some point. But if you're just after conditioning, you really don't need color, especially if you're, you know, very particular about not wanting your stitches to be a different color or something. Because most of these boots, like if these were in pristine condition, in other words, if they were brand new out of the box, those stitches are a white color or kind of like a very light neutral color, while the boot has a bit of a darker finish to it. The side here is kind of a perfect example right there. So, you know, you want to stick to neutral anyways at that point. Obviously clean it beforehand and then apply this with just a rag, and you could use a horsehair brush to kind of buff off any excess, and that's excess. I always mix up those words, but anyways, that's usually what I would recommend. Just stick to your neutral in these ones. Now the Medaille version in particular, it's a 75 ml jar, so almost half the size, but it's a bit more of a superior product. Obviously this one we have in a few colors. There are a total of 4 colors available. There is the neutral, black, dark brown, and medium brown, and we have the medium brown, but we're out of the dark brown at the moment. I need to make sure to restock on that. After all this chaos, we're a little low on stock on certain product color options, but this one's a little bit different. It still uses the neatsfoot oil in it, which is great, and the difference is that it doesn't use the jojoba oil. It uses the apricot oil, which smells amazing. If you open this jar, I don't want to open this one quite yet, but it smells, okay, fine, screw it. I'm gonna smell it. Oh yeah, it smells amazing. I mean, just almost want to pick it up with my finger and eat it, but don't do that. It's Probably not going to taste good. I don't know, but I don't want to know. I don't want to ruin it for myself ever. The other thing is that is a little bit different is that this one, even though I said don't use any products with waxes in there, typically yes, because most companies don't take that extra step of basically going through emulsifying it, meaning that they make the wax become a little more soluble with certain other additives and ingredients that makes the waxes soluble enough to bind to other liquids in there, such as the neatsfoot oil and the apricot oil. And so they use a beeswax emulsion, basically. So there is a small amount of beeswax in here, and it's not going to dry or harden in such a way where it's going to make it shine or it's going to harden and become crispy on top. No. It's going to stay fairly neutral, like almost like a tacky feel. In other words, if you just felt just the beeswax in that kind of state, it feels tacky almost, and it's going to stay like that for quite some time. By the time it actually hardens, usually it's already time to recondition your boots or shoes anyway. So you have that added in there, which is great. Obviously, also there's a little bit more concentration of pigment. Considering this is an oil treating type of conditioner, usually you can't have too much pigment in there. It's just a little too transparent. It doesn't really restore too much. But in an oil-based conditioner like this has the most pigment that I have seen so far. There are a few other products out there that also claim you can use it on there and works great, but the problem is they tend to have harder waxes in there. Regular beeswax, for example, or something else that just, it hardens, and it looks great for the first little bit. But as time goes by, it looks shabbier, faster and faster and faster. And the more you use it, the more those waxes harden and everything, and just looks terrible. Where this actually, it helps rejuvenate and restore the coloring. Now the same thing can be said about these ones. It's just that the pigment isn't quite as strong, and because there's nothing for the pigment to really bond to, like the beeswax emulsion that they have in this one, the color doesn't really do all that much. I mean, it doesn't justify it, at least that I've noticed. I've used it once or twice, I think, and I don't even remember what I did with the bottles of those. I don't even have them here. But still, if you want to just restore it just a tiny bit, I'll start carrying the colored ones here shortly, okay? I'll just finally do it. But anyways, and the other thing, obviously, that I like, that they come in these glass square jars, so a lot easier to put the rag in there with your finger and just apply it and then buff it. Same kind of steps, basically. Now, in general, obviously, I mean, if you have only access to this one here or this one or both of them, it never hurts to have a few options. I mean, for me in the back, if I'm using the neutral one, if I don't really need to restore too much color, this one works phenomenally. I mean, beautifully. But if I have to do a little bit of color touch up, like say these ones, for example, that are heavily worn out, and probably these ones after they get a full scrub down, I'm probably going to introduce a little bit of color, and that's when I'm going to go to this one here. So it's completely up to you which one you prefer. Maybe you're not a fan of Saphir, which, okay, there's a few guys out there and girls that just hate Saphir because I guess it's too popular now, and that to each his own, basically. But I love the product. It seems like a majority of people love it as well. A lot of the shoe experts, shoe shiners, avid shoe enthusiasts, cobblers, boot and shoemakers out there, they love Saphir. That's what they go for, and I highly recommend it. Now, one thing I will point out on these bottles also, kind of the difference is that there is a marked expiration date on them. Obviously, because it's all natural ingredients, so be sure to keep an eye on that. These ones, I didn't seem to find any kind of expiration date, but oh no, there is 2023 it looks like. Man, these things actually don't last quite as long as some of the other ones. Now, the other ones, they last longer, about 10 years on average, it seems like, just because there is solvents in there. This one seems to last, it looks like, 10 years as well, just because it has kind of the jojoba oil and neatsfoot oil as well, which doesn't have a tendency to go bad very quickly. Now, because this one has the apricot in there, that will probably start to go a little bad, I would assume anyways, okay? Just Apricot oil is very good for conditioning. It's used in a lot of other, skin treatment processes as well. I know my wife and my sisters, they have some weird products. I don't know if it's for the face or the hands, but it's got apricot oil in it. That's all I know, and that's treating your skin. Now imagine putting that on a nice set of boots, or even not so nice, like these ones have been just terrorized basically. Now, for those of you who don't know, most of you may be familiar with mink oil or lanolin. If you're not familiar with neat's foot oil, it's kind of one of the most versatile conditioning agents out there when it comes to leathers such as this in particular. So it's highly recommended. It's highly controversial as well, but it kind of shows the fact that the industry is using every part, in other words. Now what I'm talking about is obviously the animal. Now things like lanolin and mink oil and all that kind of stuff, it tends to come off of the hides of animals, where neat's foot oil, it comes from the certain parts of bones and the hooves of animals. Now obviously it's released also naturally, and it can even be scraped off from what I understand, but typically it's after an animal is put down. Now the whole animal ends up being used. You end up getting the products that most typical people or even butcher shops wouldn't even expect that it can be used. Some butchers may know about it, but you got to think about it this way. When an animal's put down, all the parts are used, you're actually doing great for the environment and not just being wasteful. So using such products like this that does have neat's foot oil is very beneficial to everything. Because that's a natural ingredient, also you got to think about it this way. If you're using any kind of product that is petroleum based, for example, to condition boots, you're not only causing harm to your boots and shoes because it's a petroleum product, but it's also fairly toxic to the environment. You got to think about microscopic level. All this stuff kind of flakes off, comes off your boots or shoes, or maybe gets rubbed off of somewhere. It slowly builds up. When you have this on here, you're actually using a very natural product that is part of balance on earth basically. So don't look at it as a bad thing ever. Neat's foot oil may be a controversial thing, but it's actually a very, very good thing out there. There aren't a lot of products out there that use neat's foot oil just because it's not a very good product to bind to a certain key ingredients. Certain solvents actually do not cooperate with neat's foot oil very well. They just kind of either separate or have a reaction, and it turns out terrible basically. So neat's foot oil is found in very few products out there. The other reason why is because of the controversial aspect of it. But if you're watching this, you probably understand because you're an avid shoe or boot enthusiast, and if you're new, now you understand that these products, even though they use neat's foot oil, it's a very good thing for the entire ecosystem and everything all around. So don't start dogging anybody who does use the product. Don't start dogging anybody that, talks about it, such as me as well. Leave me alone, come on. Or anyone else out there for that matter too who talks about neat's foot oil. Now typically neat's foot oil does come kind of yellowish, but with certain refining processes, you can end up with basically one that looks a little white. It has a slight yellowish hue to it, almost like an off-white color in other words, but that's perfectly fine. Once it is massaged into the leather, you could basically use it on white oiled leather, which I've never really seen. That'd be kind of cool to see actually. If there is a boot or shoe out there that is a white, Chromexcel or oiled leather or push-up leather, I want to see it. Somebody's got to post that for me, and I have to see that because I've never even heard of that. That sounds actually pretty cool. But you'd probably be able to use this stuff on there because of the refining process. Now, one other thing I will mention, because I did say neat's foot oil, I don't recommend using just straight 100% neat's foot oil, or if it's slightly blended with water. Proper neat's foot oil conditioning products for leathers in particular, anything that has neat's foot oil has to go through a proper refining process. It has to be blended and mixed properly and has to be diluted to certain points, and Saphir has really finely refined that, and they know exactly the mixtures that needs to be done for each one of these, for this one and this one, considering that this one has the jojoba oil and this one has the apricot oil. When you blend that together, and also the beeswax emulsion, you got to take that in consideration, as well as color pigment and everything. That's the key thing that makes Saphir stand apart from everyone else, is that they know what they're doing. They've been doing this for a very long time, and they really, really can get those perfect blends together and refining it and mixing it. So that's why Saphir is the best product, hands down. That's why they that's why they have gold medals. Gotta say it right. They have gold medals. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Obviously, I wish I had a pair of the Chromexcel or CXL Allen Edmonds or something similar to it in a dress shoe. I just checked through my shop, and it turns out the last 3 pairs I had in the shop were just picked up today, and unfortunately I couldn't get them in the video. But these are actually perfect examples to let you know. Otherwise, if you're not sure about what kind of leather you have, be sure to ask. Go to the company's website, Thorogood, Ariat, Allen Edmond, Alden, all these brands out there. Go to the website, find that model that you have with the style name, and check. It'll say on there what type of leather it is. CXL, Chromexcel, push-up leather, oiled leather. They have other names that they've come out with apparently as well. Waxy leather, I guess, apparently is a thing now too, which is kind of almost a hybrid. It's a complicating one, but you can still use it on that one, these products as well, on that one too. It's I think it's like wax infused leather, something like that. But again, this can be used on it as well, and it works phenomenally. I don't recommend using other waxes on it, but this I do, or this one. Anyways, again, before I keep rambling on, thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. Hit that notification bell icon to be notified when we have new videos out. Again, hopefully I'll be posting them every day like I promised, but unfortunately technical difficulties keep getting in the way, and I'm trying to get back on track with that. But for the time being, hopefully I'm not leaving anybody hanging, and at least posting something for now, and hope you've been enjoying it. And we'll just see you next time then.